Imagine a secret so explosive, it could rewrite everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle. Candace Owens has just stepped forward, and this time, the claims aren't just opinions. They're backed by whispers from inside Portland Hospital itself, a place where Meghan said she gave birth, where the fairy tale was supposed to unfold, is now the epicenter of shocking contradictions. 2 epidurals, a tower ride home, candles, tubs, a spa-like escape. It all sounds cinematic, but medical experts are calling it impossible. As the timeline unravels and the details clash with reality, one question looms larger than ever. What really happened the night Archie was born? And when the insiders start talking, the truth that was hidden for years threatens to explode into the open. This isn't just a story. This is the unraveling of a carefully crafted narrative, and what comes next will shock you. They said it was supposed to be a private, serene moment. A royal birth wrapped in warmth, dim candlelight, and the promise of a perfect memory. But when you dig into the details, what was meant to be a fairy tale begins to unravel like a poorly stitched tapestry. Candace Owens didn't just whisper accusations. She brought insiders from Portland Hospital into the light, revealing truths that were never supposed to leave those walls. And once you hear what they had to say, the story that Meghan and Harry told starts to feel less like reality and more like a carefully scripted scene. Harry's memoir, Spare, gave the world what was meant to feel like raw, unfiltered honesty. Yet, buried in the heart of that emotional narrative was a line that seemed almost too incredible to be true. Meghan allegedly had 2 epidurals, gave birth at Portland Hospital, and was home at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. 2 hours. For anyone who has ever witnessed a birth, even under the smoothest circumstances, that timeline is not just fast, it's physically impossible. Experts and hospital insiders alike raised their eyebrows. Let's break it down. From Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage is a 1-hour drive under perfect conditions. If the couple truly made it home within 2 hours, that means every step, labor, delivery, recovery, monitoring, paperwork, packing, security arrangements, and the drive itself was crammed into a 60-minute window. Impossible. And the 2 epidural detail makes the story even more unbelievable. Epidurals are not snacks at a buffet you can take twice without consequence. One catheter is inserted into the spine, and the dose is adjusted as needed. For a second epidural to happen, the first must be removed, the procedure restarted, and every step monitored closely. That level of precision and risk could never be swept into casual storytelling. And the inconsistencies don't stop there. Harry's description of Portland Hospital, a dimly lit, almost spa-like retreat, doesn't match reality. Portland Hospital is a specialist facility, not a luxury wellness center. It has no emergency department, no secret elevators, no hidden royal corridors. When medical emergencies occur, protocols demand immediate attention, specialized staff, and controlled environments. Candles, soft music, and birthing balls are not part of high-risk delivery procedures, especially for a woman in her late 30s experiencing what insiders describe as preeclampsia, a condition that can turn deadly without constant monitoring. The insider revelations go deeper. Security and protocol for a royal birth are strict, unwavering. The queen must be notified immediately. Every birth in line for the throne is carefully documented, timed, and witnessed. Yet for Archie's birth, according to multiple sources, this procedure was ignored. No calls, no alerts, no adherence to centuries-old rules. That raises a simple but terrifying question. If royal protocol was bypassed, what was really happening behind the scenes? Then there are the smaller cracks that make the story shatter further. Harry recalls slipping out at 2 a.m. to grab Nando's chicken, but hospital insiders say Portland has 24-hour chefs. No one needed to leave the building. He described a secret elevator, a hidden passageway, a silent escape. But the staff insists no such things exist. And the confusion around who delivered Archie only adds to the suspicion. Names were reported, denied, corrected. A royal birth should leave no room for doubt. Yet here, every detail seems to shift with every telling. And finally, the human element, the emotional contradictions. Meghan's explanations changed 3 times regarding press access. First, it was to avoid blocking the hospital's emergency entrance. Next, it was a claim of racism. Finally, she said the press simply didn't show up. 3 explanations for a single event, each contradicting the others. Investigators know this pattern well. Multiple conflicting stories often mean the truth has been withheld, carefully shielded, and possibly altered. Layer upon layer, the tale that seemed intimate and perfect begins to crumble. The Tower timeline, the double epidurals, the missing royal protocol, the luxurious yet impossible hospital environment, the high-risk pregnancy presented as serene bliss, it all points to one inescapable conclusion. Something about Meghan's birth story doesn't align with reality. What the world has been told, what was published, what was memorialized as a tender moment, may not have happened the way it was described. And as the insiders continue to speak, quietly, behind closed doors, one chilling thought emerges. If this part of the story isn't real, then what else in the fairy tale has been carefully constructed to hide the truth? The unraveling has begun. And the full story, the one that will shock even the most loyal followers, is only starting to surface. The cracks in the story only grew wider as more insider details emerged, revealing layers of contradictions that seemed impossible to ignore. The more people who spoke out, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, a few harmless exaggerations, or a story told with creative license. Every element, from the medical claims to the royal protocol, was being pulled apart piece by piece, exposing a web of inconsistencies that begged one question. If this wasn't what the public had been told, what was? Candace Owens didn't just point out the discrepancies, she brought forward whispers from the hospital staff, people who had been there, who had seen the processes, who knew the rules. They spoke of timelines that could never exist, of high-risk pregnancies handled with care, not candles and soft music. One nurse reportedly said, "No one leaves this hospital 2 hours after delivery, especially not with 2 epidurals and any complications. That's physically impossible." And yet, Harry's narrative suggested exactly that. The story about the 2 epidurals alone created a storm of skepticism. One medical expert explained, to have 2 separate spinal procedures in active labor is not just unusual, it's dangerous. Every step must be monitored. Every movement could risk the mother or child. No hospital would allow it casually. And yet, the memoir presented it as a near-trivial detail, as though it were no more complicated than choosing an outfit for a night out. Then there were the details of the high-risk pregnancy itself. Meghan, in her late 30s, allegedly faced preeclampsia, a condition that demands strict observation, controlled medication, and extended post-birth recovery. Yet public appearances, international flights, and red carpet events followed shortly after Archie's birth, with no visible signs of recovery or the caution such a condition requires. Insiders called it a contradiction that made no sense medically, socially, or procedurally. The inconsistencies extended to the royal side of the story. Protocol dictates that the Queen must be notified immediately during any birth in line to the throne. This is not tradition, it's procedure. Every detail is logged, every timeline observed, every witness accounted for. Yet, according to sources, this crucial step was skipped, leaving a gaping hole in the official process. If the birth truly happened as described in the memoir, it would mean someone deliberately ignored centuries of royal rules, a decision that insiders say would be unthinkable. Then came the smaller, but equally telling contradictions. The infamous Nando's chicken story, a narrative of Harry sneaking out in the middle of the night, crumbled under scrutiny. Portland Hospital offers 24-hour private dining. No staff member would leave a patient without access to meals. Secret elevators and back passages, described as part of a magical escape plan, were confirmed by staff to be non-existent. Even the identity of the attending physician was murky, with reports and denials swirling in the media, adding confusion and raising eyebrows. Each shifting explanation Meghan provided for press access only added to the suspicion. First, she claimed concern over blocking an emergency entrance. Then, allegations of racism. Finally, she said the press simply didn't show up. 3 conflicting reasons for one event suggest a deeper story, one that hasn't yet been fully revealed. Investigators, reporters, and insiders alike noticed a pattern. The more official the event, the more contradictions emerged. And perhaps most chillingly, the story presented as a serene, intimate, and almost magical birth began to feel curated, manufactured, and carefully controlled. Candles, tubs, birthing balls, details that sound comforting and cinematic, didn't match hospital protocols for high-risk deliveries, especially in a facility designed for serious maternal care, not aesthetic experiences. The narrative was falling apart, piece by piece. Medical experts, hospital insiders, and even casual observers were left questioning every statement, every detail, every carefully placed anecdote. A birth that was supposed to be a tender, personal moment was now revealed as a puzzle with missing pieces, contradictory timelines, and procedural impossibilities. And as the truth continued to surface, a new, darker question began to echo louder than ever. If the birth story, the first public, intimate glimpse into Meghan and Harry's family life, was riddled with inconsistencies, what other parts of the fairy tale might be fabricated? Every revelation, every insider whisper, every medical contradiction pointed to a shocking reality. The story the world had been told may never have been the story that actually happened. The facade was cracking, and once a royal narrative begins to unravel, it's not just one story that is exposed. It's a cascade of truths, secrets, and betrayals waiting for the world to notice. The questions now demand answers, and the answers promise to be more explosive than anyone could have imagined. And just when it seemed the story couldn't get more unbelievable, the final layers began to peel back, revealing a reality far darker than anyone had imagined. Every carefully crafted detail, the candles, the tubs, the dim lighting, the spa-like atmosphere, was now under scrutiny. Insiders whispered that what had been portrayed as serene and intimate was, in reality, a series of carefully managed appearances, a performance designed to protect an image rather than reflect the truth. Every lie, every exaggeration, and every contradiction now converged in one place: the heart of Archie's birth. Medical experts continued to shake their heads at the timeline. 2 epidurals, a high-risk pregnancy, a preeclampsia scare. All of it compressed into what Harry described as a smooth, effortless SS experience. One doctor reportedly said, if any of this were true, the hospital would have been in chaos. There would be alerts, extra staff, continuous monitoring. A peaceful spa moment? Impossible. Yet the memoir made it sound like an elegant interlude, a scene out of a movie, where reality bent to narrative, not safety. Royal insiders added another layer of shock. The Queen, normally notified immediately of any birth in the line of succession, was allegedly left out of the loop. Protocols that had been followed for generations, every birth of Diana, Kate, and William, were reportedly ignored. Sources described confusion and whispers among staff. No one could understand why the rules weren't followed. It was as if the story being told didn't match reality. And that, insiders say, is where suspicion deepened. Then came the public contradictions. Meghan's explanations to the press changed multiple times. One moment, concern over hospital logistics. Another, accusations of racism. And then, a claim that the press simply didn't show. Each shifting story, each inconsistency only fueled a growing unease. Observers began to ask, why would someone fabricate or alter a story so closely tied to the truth? And if one element was false, what else was? Even the smallest details started to crumble. The famous 2 a.m. Nando's run was debunked. The secret elevator? Non-existent. Attending physicians named in reports contradicted one another. Every minor anecdote, meant to humanize and charm, instead painted a portrait of a narrative built on illusion. Candles flickered in the story, but in reality, strict clinical procedures governed every step. Tubs and birthing balls were cinematic touches, not medical facts. The emotional weight of these revelations hit hardest when considering the high-risk nature of the pregnancy. Preeclampsia is not a gentle condition. It can be deadly, unpredictable, and requires constant attention. And yet, photos, travel records, and public appearances suggested Meghan was moving freely, flying internationally, attending events, and showing no signs of recovery. Experts called it a glaring contradiction, a timeline that defied medical logic and common sense. As all these pieces converged, the pattern became undeniable. This was not a simple misremembering or minor embellishment. It was a carefully curated story, wrapped in warmth and cinematic imagery, designed to protect an image, a narrative, a version of events meant for the public eye. Behind it, reality waited quietly, exposing cracks too wide to ignore, and the insiders, those brave enough to speak, hinted that this was only the beginning. Every discrepancy, every impossible timeline, every shifted story pointed to something larger, a truth that had been carefully concealed. If Archie's birth story could be manipulated so thoroughly, what else in the fairy tale could be untrue? The tension now hung thick in the air. Questions echoed louder with each revelation. If the story of one of the most publicized royal births in recent history could be fabricated, rewritten, or misrepresented, then what else was hidden? Secrets, protocols ignored, timelines impossible, lies carefully woven, everything suggested that the public had been shown a story designed to dazzle, not reflect reality. And as the whispers of insiders continued to emerge, one chilling truth became clear. The fairy tale was fading, the illusions were breaking, and the reality, the truth, was creeping into the light. And when it did, it wouldn't just expose contradictions in a single birth story. It threatened to upend everything the world thought it knew about Meghan, Harry, and the carefully constructed narrative they had shared with the world. The curtain was lifting, and the truth, long hidden, was finally stepping forward. The story of Meghan's birth, wrapped in candles, tubs, and cinematic moments, now lies in fragments. Timelines impossible, medical details contradictory, royal protocols ignored. Every revelation, every insider whisper, every small inconsistency points to a truth that has been carefully hidden from the world. But this is far from the end. What really happened behind the walls of Portland Hospital? Which parts of the fairy tale were crafted for the public eye, and which were reality? In the next video, we'll dive even deeper, uncover leaked DMs, confidential insider calls, and shocking new evidence that could change everything we thought we knew about the royal family. If you want to hear the untold story, comment below to unlock the secrets. This might be the end of one chapter, but what happens next will shock the world. Don't miss it. The truth is only just beginning to surface.